a Just Us Lesbians production. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Taco Stand, your favorite SATX podcast where we showcase incredible lesbians from all walks of life and dive deep into their stories, passions, and journeys. Before we dive in, a quick heads up. This episode is rated R and definitely not safe for work. We're going to get real about sex toys, and yep, lesbian bed death. If this isn't your thing, that's totally understandable. You can skip this episode. Or if you've got little ones nearby, make sure you grab your headphones and save this one for later. Today's episode is a hot one. I'm joined by Allie, one of our most beloved and frequent guests, always bringing honesty and humor to the table. And I'm thrilled to welcome Jen to the show for the very first time. Jen has 15 years of experience in the adult novelties and lingerie industry, and she's here to bring a unique perspective to a topic that doesn't get really talked about nearly enough. Now, I want to take a moment to say, if these conversations make you a little uncomfortable, that's okay. I come from a very conservative background myself, and for a long time, I struggled to talk about sex at all. But over the years, I've done the work to unpack the shame and find confidence in my own voice and honestly embrace open conversations about intimacy. So I encourage you to keep an open mind as you listen. Whether you're here to learn, reflect, or just explore new ideas for yourself, there's a space for you here. And finally, please don't forget to vote for Jules' Taco Stand podcast in Essay Current's Best of Essay Awards. Not sure if you guys have heard it yet, but the voting is back on, and we're hoping to win the Best Podcast category again this year. All right, y'all, let's get into it. This might just be our spiciest episode yet.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that make me. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex. A little bit. Let's talk about sex.
Oh my gosh. You guys have just plugged into the best episode of this year, I think, by far. And I know I haven't really released a lot of episodes, so welcome everybody. We have Allie and Jen for today's episode.
Woohoo! I'm here again.
It's
forced
special.
it. I forced myself onto this conversation, actually.
I'm so glad you're here because I think you're going to be an expert in this more than I will be.
Oh.
She's talking about Jen S.
Disagree. Oh, I thought she was talking about you. I was like, I'm disagreeing because I feel like Angelique probably knows a little bit more than she's letting on.
I know. I was going to say, I think that what Angelique is saying is that Jen S is the expert, whereas we are just learning from you.
We are learning from you.
I would not call myself an expert. I just have a lot of experience, but that sounds really bad also. So
yes. So everyone, welcome to the Let's Be Honest. No, everyone, welcome to the episode of a special Let's Talk About It. I know Stephanie's not here. We're missing her tonight, unfortunately.
I'm filling in.
And Jen S. Should we say Jen S or just Jen? Jen S. Let's do Jen S. There's a lot of Jens out there.
There are a lot of Jens.
So we're going to say Jen S is here tonight. And we're going to, 1, get to know her, 2, get to know what she does, and then we're going to get into all sorts of details about sex today, or whatever time you're listening with us. So welcome to another episode. Also, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who's voting for the podcast. Super grateful for you. I hope we win again this year. Woo-hoo. Keep voting every day. So we're going to get into it. So, Jen S., welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You guys, she's like one of our favorite people. I've been saying this, by the way, since I met you, which was you literally are one of my favorite people because you're just open and honest about everything. There's no judgment. When you're around I'm just putting that out there, you guys. When we're around you, it just feels like we can just talk about anything.
Yep.
Well, I love that because I do feel like I can talk about anything around you guys. So that's because of you guys too. Yeah.
Well, it's obviously good vibes. Yeah. Right. That's important. But it's also because it's easy to talk to you. So I think this,
thank you.
Regardless, this conversation obviously is going to stay professional, you guys, right? We're going to keep it professional.
We'll try.
You know.
Do our best.
But and also, I feel like it's just going to be really easy.
Yeah. Yes, it will be.
This is like any other conversation we have all the time, every day.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll even forget, we'll forget that we're recording.
Yes.
Just like our usual conversation. So, Jen, how long have you been with the Just as Lesbians group?
I joined a little over 3 years ago when I moved to San Antonio with an ex who was incredibly antisocial. And so I joined and just kind of lurked for a year until that relationship ended. And then I finally came out to my first event and that was that. I love you guys. You can't get rid of me now.
I can't. Yes, that was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And how did you find out about the meetup group?
I actually joined Meetup in 2013 when I moved to Baton Rouge because I didn't know anybody there. And so I joined and I was like, okay, what are my interests?
Right.
Lesbians. So I found a lesbian group there and they are called the Lesbian Social Club and I'm still friends actually with a lot of those people that I met there. And since I lived there and had such a great experience with Meetup when I moved to Houston, I joined Meetup there and my experiences there weren't as fantastic. But when I moved here, I've just, since I started coming to events, it's been amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, I met my people.
Yes, you have found us and we have found you.
When was the first meetup that you did with us? Was it at the pool party? I feel like that's when I met you.
That was like the second or third one that I'd done. The first one I did was at a bar. And there was a lot of people there. I don't remember which bar. I don't think you were there. You were not there either, Angela.
It was at Stephanie's.
Oh, probably not.
Yeah.
It was Stephanie's
the first
pool
time
party.
I met both of you guys was at Stephanie's pool party.
That's right.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But
and then we were just talking about this the second time. So we meet. You and I immediately hit it off. Like we just have this really great conversation. You tell me what you do. You do. You know what I mean? You're just like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you must know so many. Yeah, you must know so much about just sex toys or just understanding you. And again, like I said, it was so easy to open up to you. So by the second time, you guys, that I met you, you had literally came and brought me like
goodies.
15 different goodies of like different toys and things, and you're like, just try it, let me know if you like it or not. And I just remember being like, I love this person.
I'm a giver. I tried to give stuff. I tried to give stuff to Angeli, but she refused it.
Well, now I am.
Now she regrets that, but well, it's all right.
Well, no, you've been giving me stuff.
I have been giving you stuff.
Right. So, okay. So I'm sure that the audience is kind of catching on and our listeners catching on what Jen is doing, or what Jen does. But can you just spell it out there just so everybody knows in case they're like not sure what we are talking about?
I am the general manager for a chain of adult novelty stores in Texas and Louisiana. We also sell lingerie. So
yes, that's right. I have a couple of those from you. Thank you very much.
Hey, I haven't gotten one of those yet.
You didn't ask.
What? Okay, I'm asking now. Okay, and it's recorded.
It's on record.
It is on record. You all heard it here first.
Yes. that would be fun.
I'm making all the lesbians in San Antonio sexy as fuck. So
oh my gosh,
go.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. That's your mission in life.
It actually really is my mission.
I love that. So how did you land that? Like that's sort of unusual.
Completely coincidentally, I moved to Texas to study with a teacher. I used to be an opera singer, and I moved here to work with a teacher. And as a performing musician, you always kind of have to supplement your income until you make it giant and you're super famous, which I was not. So I was working retail and I was working at Macy's at the time and hated it because it was so uptight and so
Macy's.
formal.
Oh goodness.
And I saw that my job was hiring for a manager of a store, and I went in and interviewed and got the job and just moved up really quickly.
And how long have you been there now?
15 years.
15 years.
Isn't that crazy?
15
I bet
years
you have
selling
seen
sex toys.
So many things.
Let's start
I've
there.
seen too many things.
Let's start there.
Definitely not things we should talk about on the podcast. There's been weird stuff. I mean,
Well, some
you know.
stuff that you
So-
can talk about.
We can be a little bit PG-13 though. Can
Yeah,
we? I feel
yes.
like we're not
The
like,
interesting things I've seen probably aren't really PG-13.
Okay.
Truthfully.
All right.
All right.
So I
All right.
will.
That's fair.
I will leave it at that because most of the stuff I've seen and or heard about has been more horrifying than.
Ah,
I do have a question then.
Yeah.
Since you've seen so many very interesting, maybe horrific things, does that change for you when you think about sex, or has that altered or even jaded you at any
Not at
point?
all.
Okay.
Not at all. Because the things that I'm referring to are like people coming into our locations and just being incredibly inappropriate and doing really inappropriate and or illegal things.
I see.
I also see, I deal with a lot of customer issues, customer complaints, things like that, because that's just one of the aspects of my job.
In retail,
And,
doesn't matter.
Yeah. And some of the stories I've heard are, whoa, those might be more the things that give me pause, a moment to think, oh, would I, knowing that this person had this experience with this product,
Right.
would I use it?
Or would you recommend it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that,
It's
yeah.
what, because, yeah.
Well, but that's fair for anything, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's like eggs at the
Yeah.
store, and, somebody gets hurt or somebody has a reaction.
Exactly.
You're gonna be like, whoa, I'm gonna second guess about buying that specific egg or something. I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever, right? Or from that brand, right? It's just like anything,
Yeah.
but it's a lot different,
Absolutely.
obviously, because this is like somebody's body.
Yes, somebody's
And
body,
it
somebody's.
has anything ever left permanent damage?
Yes.
permanent damage.
I'll tell this story and you can edit it out if you want to.
Okay.
And only because this is actually this was back when these products just kind of started coming onto the market. Ejaculating toys. So dildos that can ejaculate, so you put something in them and then they have a tube in them and it'll squirt out.
Okay.
A customer, a male and female couple came in. They purchased one for the female to use on the male anally. And I was actually in Vegas at a trade show at the time, and I get a phone call. And the female using it on her male partner didn't realize that it was entirely too big, and that they were using it so aggressively that the tube at the end of the item started to push out and actually hurt her male partner really badly.
Internally.
And, yes, internally, and he had to go to the hospital. It was really, yeah.
Woo.
Yeah. So that was at the beginning of that whole line of toys, like that whole genre of toys. Now they're made much better, and now actually lesbians make them for lesbian use.
That's
which is
what I'm
actually,
thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was not one that was made by lesbians for lesbians.
I got you.
Yeah, this was just a niche product on the market at the time because,
Right.
ejaculating toys, self-ejaculating toys, are a big deal, or were at the time. They were more
Right.
fetishy, so
Okay.
yeah.
So there's more line of that right now.
Yes,
Yeah.
but
okay.
again, made better, higher quality,
Sure.
made by lesbians, where you
Yes.
don't have to worry about things like that.
Right.
So,
yeah. Well, I want one. So put it in the tab.
Okay, I'm really
Just
like, my
kidding.
innocent mind is literally going, what?
Yeah.
I don't even know what that would even look like.
What kind
You're
of
gonna,
product did they
show
put?
me
What kind of product
what
did they
it looks
put so
like.
that it's like same consistency as the sperm?
They just used lube.
Ah, okay.
But the problem is that the toy was entirely too big. This is the problem we run into a lot.
Okay.
Customers
Yeah.
don't realize, especially if you're doing anything anal, you can't just go in with a big toy. If you're not ready for it, if you're not prepared for it, you can't.
Absolutely not. Yes,
can
you
get
got to
hurt.
prep for that.
Yeah.
So
You
I
can
have,
long term hurt yourself.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is insane.
And do major damage, I'm assuming, where it can affect like bodily functions, right?
Absolutely.
That's what I was
Absolutely.
thinking. Like
Yeah.
that's really scary.
Yeah.
Please be careful out there, you guys. Oh my goodness.
We're smarter than
Please.
that. Trust
Yeah.
me. Lesbians are so much smarter than that.
I bet.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, do you have a horrific story about lesbians at all?
No, not really.
Okay.
No.
We do. I mean, we have women who are coming in to buy stuff for their female partners and just assuming, oh, it's in a box that's like 12 inches tall, and they're like, oh, I'm sure it's not too big, and we're like, you sure you don't want us to take it out so you can see it first? Are you sure that your partner is going to want something this big?
Right.
But some people are just really adamant, no, it's fine. Okay.
Interesting.
You know you can't bring this back, right? So
You're
just make sure everybody knows.
And they're very expensive.
They're not cheap.
They are very
especially the bigger you
expensive.
go or the more material you have, you're paying for that material.
Yeah, absolutely.
Therefore, Jen, I mean, we owe you quite a bit, especially Allie. Let's be honest. I mean,
Listen.
you've been giving a lot of
toys.
Yes,
Listen,
over 3 years.
I will say that is one of the perks about just knowing you, because
It's true.
You have been
You
able to be
you
like,
are the
hey,
expert.
can you here, try this, try that,
I do try to give stuff away all the time. I'm
I
like,
know.
hey, do you want?
Yeah.
Do you want something?
wanna
Hey,
try
what do
it?
you want?
Yeah.
I don't need to know specifics. Just give me a general idea of what you want.
Yeah.
Well, you already know.
Yeah.
You already know.
I got this.
I was actually going to say, so going back to what you were talking about, like almost like your eyes are bigger than
Your stomach.
what
If you're
thinking
exactly.
about, if
You don't realize
how you think it's, that's going to be fine. And actually that has happened to me before I met you, of course, and before I actually understood this genre of toys or just whatever it is. It was something I didn't know. You walk into a store and you're almost overwhelmed.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I
many
remember my
options.
first time ever going into an adult store where I was like, what do I look at? And oh my God, this is scary. And I remember thinking this is a very overwhelming experience. And there are people there that will support you and they'll be like, hey, just let me know. But then you're that customer, you're going to be shy.
Yeah.
I was shy. I was like, okay, I'm good. Nope.
Yeah.
I know.
Like, don't look
you
at
don't
me.
want to. Yes, you
know?
don't want to look at them in the eye. You don't even
Yeah.
want to ask questions because
you don't want to
Right.
spill too much of yourself.
Yeah.
Or as far as like what you're looking for and you don't know what to look for. Yeah. So tell us. I mean, I'm going to ask a question.
Of course, yeah, go for it.
Tell us what if you were new to an adult store, or let us know, like, what is something that you would be like prepared for, or you would want somebody to prepare for when they're going into a store.
I can't speak for any other chains out there or any other businesses out there, but I know specifically for my company, we are very focused on education and making sure that our customers walk out knowing as much as possible about whatever they purchased,
Right.
so that they can go home, use it properly, care for it properly, charge it properly, make sure it functions properly, you know, store it properly. It's all very important because, I mean, at the end of the day, my boss's main concern is, are they going to come back and shop with us again? So if they don't have a great experience, they don't get what they want out of the experience, they're not going to come and shop with us again. So for me, what I'm constantly just pushing for my employees and my managers and saying, okay, you have to talk to every customer, make them feel comfortable enough to come to you and ask you questions.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
we at my company are very focused on females and couples. So, you know, unintentionally, it's obviously not on purpose, but we tend to only employ people who are going to make our customers feel comfortable.
Right.
So if you're not comfortable talking about these items
Yeah.
and these products with your customers, I'm not going to hire you. I'm not going to let my managers hire you. If you can't come in and make me feel comfortable shopping with you, then
Right.
You have to feel
Yeah.
But you want to go
That's
in
fair.
and have an open, you don't want to go in and be too afraid to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Because that's the biggest thing. Like, if I go in and I only have a $30 budget, I want to be able to walk up to somebody and say, hey, I don't want to break the bank. I want something that does this. What do you recommend?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And I mean, we're professionals. Like, my job is to think about sex and to talk about sex. And granted, I'm on the kind of other end of it at this point. I'm not in stores every day. Yes, granted, I go to my stores a lot, but I'm not the one.
But you are the
yourself up.
expert
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yes, you look
You
at
know,
merchandise. You know what people want and
Yeah.
what people ask for.
So it's just important to be able to go in with an open mind and be willing to communicate what you're looking for, because otherwise chances are you'll leave with something you don't want.
No,
And you will
exactly.
have wasted money because you can't bring it back.
Right.
You know? So it's
So you're looking for somebody that's open-minded and doing all these. So when you applied for this job, were you also thinking, do I really so when you saw that there's an opening, what really sparked your interest in wanting to apply there?
I've always been very open, I've never had an issue talking about sex.
Okay.
I never thought to myself, oh, I would work in an adult store.
Right.
I never once thought about it. But when I saw,
Yeah.
you know, I was dating this woman and, you know, I was like, what would you think if I worked here? She's like, that would be so cool. And I was like, yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? And I just went in and yeah, I mean, just, I've never, and I, at that time, I had one toy in my entire life.
Right.
One toy.
Yeah. So you're
And
very
so, yeah, I didn't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about anything. I'd had one toy.
Yeah.
And it was not a toy that I would even use now. Like
Well, I mean, you've upgraded clearly. You have all the knowledge. You have all the tools.
Yeah.
You have all.
I went into a store one time with a bunch of friends and I was like, yeah, let me grab this. And it was this giant dildo. And I was like, what the? I got home and I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? I was like, it doesn't vibrate. It doesn't. Like, I was like, I don't. Yeah. So, but I've never had a problem talking about sex. I've never had a problem, like, you know, it gets, when it's a new conversation with somebody, you know, you've never had a sex discussion with this person before, it can be a little bit intimidating even for me. But I mean, I guess my feeling on the subject is that life is too short to have bad sex. Life is too short to not enjoy your sex life, you know. It is too short. I want to enjoy it, and the only way to do that is to have open conversation, to be honest with my partner about what I want, for them to be honest with me about what they want. What do we want together? What are we willing to try together? What turns me on, you know, like and your biggest sex organ is your head. Like that is the biggest sex organ in anybody's body.
So true.
You know,
that is true.
Especially for
like,
women.
Yeah.
Like if you can't wrap your head around the act of it or whatever it is, it doesn't matter what you're into. If you can't like get your brain into it, it's not easy for
even just talking about sex, even if it's not something you're not interested in doing, just having that conversation is, for me,
already
can be an immediate turn on.
Exactly.
Like we're talking about just naughty, dirty stuff. Yeah, even if it's not something I'm interested in, I'm still turned on right now. You know?
Yeah.
So
you are right now.
No, not at the moment. Not at the moment.
Okay.
But I mean,
Keep
just
it PG-13, ma'am.
no. This is rated R. We're going. We won't go X, but we're gonna go rated R probably.
You're saying like sex positive stuff right now, right?
Absolutely.
So that's a big one. But then there's more of that taboo with sex. Do you see that a lot in your work? Like, do you see a lot of people come in and they're just like, oh, this is...
I see a lot of people come in who
hesitation?
haven't expressed to their partners what they genuinely want. And because they think this thing that might be somewhat not mainstream, you know, they think that that's taboo. So you see these people come in and they're like, oh, I really want this, but... And there's always a but.
Yeah.
And once you start talking to them...
Not like anal butt.
No. But like, you know, there's always just this kind of like, and I'm like, have you talked to your partner about this? Have you talked to your partner about what you want, whatever it is? And, you know, it's so many people, you could have been in a relationship with the same person for 20 years and still never expressed to them this desire that you have.
Yeah. I wonder if that's shame. Or
it's shame. It's concern. It's like, oh, this person's going to reject me if they think I want something that they don't want.
Right.
Or they think I want something that's freaky or weird to them. You know, I mean, and there are so many fetishes and kinks out there, but a lot of the stuff that people come in and they're worried about their partner finding out about is not abnormal. It's not weird. Like, as far as I'm concerned, as long as it doesn't have anything to do with animals or children, you do you. Like, I can't get behind animals or children, but everything else, if it's something that turns you on, then even though I might not understand it and maybe it doesn't turn me on, like,
it's okay.
That's why you have to find people.
It's okay.
Yeah. I think sexual chemistry is so important in any relationship. Like, okay, here's the question. Would you guys settle for an okay sex, but everything else is good outside of the bedroom? Say, it's like okay to good sex. It's not like the best sex. Would you guys still be okay in staying in that relationship because everything else is good?
Okay.
Was it ever good?
But the sex can be improved. I mean,
was it good during like the honeymoon period and then it just
no, it's
got
never
mediocre?
Good. It wasn't good. It was just like, you know, it's like
can
basic.
You explain? Can you elaborate?
Like, it's not adventurous. It's not adventurous. Let's just say
like
that. It's
person...
very vanilla. Very vanilla sex.
Okay.
Some people love vanilla sex.
Some people do.
I was gonna say there's nothing wrong with vanilla sex, but
no, I'm not saying there's nothing. But it's like, if you want more, let's say you feel like it's lacking in the bedroom, right? Like, you came, you orgasmed, but then something is missing still. Like, you wanted a little bit more, but your partner doesn't have it or can't have it or refuses to change it up a little bit. Does
In
make
that
sense?
instance, absolutely not.
No, you're not staying. You don't.
I think that yes, sex is not the most important thing in a relationship, but it is just as important as every other important thing in a relationship.
Right.
If I am bored in the bedroom or wherever we might be having sex, I will get more and more bored. I don't want to do the same thing over and over and over again. Yes, this turns me on. Yes, this makes me climax. But this is what we've done for the past 6 months. I don't want the same thing over and over again. And if
Right.
I've expressed that to you and we're still not doing anything different, even though I'm initiating different things, it to me, it would make me feel like I'm not being heard. I'm not being listened to, especially if I've been open and said, hey, this is how I feel about this. This is what I would like. Can we try this?
Right.
Can we compromise? Because it can never be just, I want this. We need to do it this way.
Yeah.
Compromise is incredibly important.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, it's just as important as everything else in a relationship. So if we're lacking there and we've talked about it and nothing changes, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to in my own, of course, I've been with my wife for 16 years, so it's a lot different.
Right.
Because, and we talked about this in our other podcast about the ebbs and flows of a relationship,
Right.
and it's very natural for us. And at first I was really concerned, right? I was really concerned about the ebbs and flows of it. I'm going, oh my gosh, what's wrong with us? There's something wrong, right? But then it became more of an understanding that there's much more than just sex.
Right.
That there's intimacy, right? And a lot of an intimacy can be holding hands, cuddling, kisses, but it doesn't have to lead to sex.
Right.
It doesn't have to be this, you have to have this climax at the
Right.
very end, right? And I'm not saying that is a gift to have the climax, right? That's
Absolutely.
the gift.
Sure. Yeah.
But the other adventurous part of it is going to be the intimacy, and
Right.
is going to be, yes,
connection.
the connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're so to me it's kind of hard because
Right.
if you're saying you can't get over vanilla sex or
Yeah.
it sounds to me, Angeli, what you're saying is you don't have that connection with that person.
Could be.
Because at least that's not my interpretation of your question. Because to me, if somebody's having vanilla sex but they're so into it,
That's
is
true.
that vanilla sex now? It may be to somebody who's very sex adventurous, right? Who's
Right.
like super into all these different things
Yeah.
and want to try these, I don't even know. It could be
but
very
again,
extreme,
yeah.
extreme things. But to the person who's having this incredible sex that may look vanilla to them, it could be something more. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it does.
Absolutely,
100%.
But it comes down to the communication you have with your partner.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
guys discussed this? Is this what you both want? Because that's important. And like I said, the compromising thing, and in any relationship, whether it's 6 months or 60 years, you're going to have those ebbs and flows. That's 100% normal.
Yeah. Right.
But still being able to find that connection, even as you get older and libidos start to slow down and they're not as active and not as
Yeah. Yeah.
front and center,
Right.
You still find those ways, and you still, even if it is not adventurous, you still find a way to connect and please each other.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess my thing is as long as the communication is there and you're both on board and you're both, you both are understanding this is what we both want. We're
Yeah.
both happy with
Yeah.
this.
Right.
Then
Right.
it doesn't matter if it's vanilla, if it's chocolate, if it's
Yeah.
I don't
The
know what,
swirls.
Nutella, whatever it is.
Yes.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
As long as you're both happy.
Yeah.
But if both people are expressing their wants and needs
Right.
and only one person is being satisfied, that's where
That's
it becomes, an issue.
Then I can say you're not compatible at
Right.
that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Then that's hard for you to be in a relationship where
Yeah.
you can't have that intimacy or that loving relationship, whether it's sex or having that comfortable expression, expressing
Right.
yourself through it.
Yeah.
I can then see,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's an issue. Then then it's not going to work.
Yeah. Well, because some people have said in the past where, if we don't have a spark in the bedroom, it's also really hard for them to continue on in the relationship. So I'm just curious, just doing a poll of how does that?
I think you can you can teach anybody.
Yeah, if they're
Like,
willing.
if they're willing to be open.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that anybody can be an amazing lover
Uh-huh.
if they're paying attention to their partner.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's not saying you have to be an acrobat in the bedroom. It's not saying that you have to
Yeah.
like be able
Do all
to
the
pull a
crazy
rabbit out of your
stuff.
hat.
Yeah.
But if you are paying attention to your partner, you are 100% capable of being the best
All right.
lover that they've
yeah.
ever had. You
Yeah.
just have to pay attention, and it's conversations that have to be had. It's
Right.
it's literally paying attention. I need to see how she responds to this. I need to see how she responds. If I send this text message, what panties are you wearing right now?
Yeah.
Like, how is she going to respond to this?
Right.
Because like I said, it all starts in your head.
True.
Your head is your biggest sex organ.
No, it's so true.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
like, you have to pay attention to how your partner reacts to everything, and that's not a bad thing. Like, yes, it's a lot of work, but you know what? A good relationship ends up being a good relationship because you both put in a lot of work.
Yes.
absolutely.
It's the effort, really. Yeah.
And one thing, at least from my perspective, is that just like you said, being able to try new things because there can be lulls in a relationship. Okay, so how do we spice it up, right?
Yeah.
Having that conversation. There are a lot of things that I feel like talking to other couples even too, is that they at least try to stay open to that. And if they can't and they shut down, then it's hard for them to continue on, especially if somebody's saying, I want this, but your partner's not giving it to you. It's just not going to flow.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I have a question for you about the actual sex toys and I don't necessarily mean you using them, but has there been like the best thing that you've noticed that people are like, yes, I love this particular thing, or is it more of a variety, or what does that look like
right now?
And we're talking mainly about lesbians, because let's get very specific.
Yeah.
Lesbian, since this is a lesbian group, let's get really specific with this. Is there anything that you notice as far as common toys that people use?
Well, I mean, if we're talking specifically about lesbians,
Yes.
you have your couples coming in trying to buy harnesses and dildos. So strap-ons.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
we're talking about just a woman, like women right now, the biggest thing is the rose. And that's been the biggest thing for the last 3-ish years.
Right.
So the rose, it's
tell us
it's
what the
got
rose
air
is.
pulse and or suction technology, and it simulates your clitoris being sucked on.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so
It's like somebody going
it
down
went
there.
viral like maybe
Yeah.
3-4 years ago
Right. It's
still
on
really
TikTok,
hot?
and it's still
the thing.
just huge. But
Yeah.
if we're talking specifically about lesbians, what most lesbians come in looking for is a harness and a dildo, and then one or both of the partners also want clitoral stimulation along with that. So they're looking for things that they can add to that for that purpose. And I mean, it just really depends on both partners' mobility.
Right.
How mobile are they? How flexible are they? How, and I mean, like, the truth of the matter is that takes time to figure out.
Sure, yeah.
Especially if you're in a new relationship or something has changed. You have to refigure those things out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's reconfiguration,
yeah,
really.
exactly.
I mean, seriously.
Okay,
Yeah.
I messed up my knee, so I can't kneel like this anymore. So how are we going to do this so
Got
that's
it.
still,
Yeah.
So it's a constant, ebb and flow, like you said
Yeah.
before. Like, can we do this? Do we need to do something different? Okay,
Right.
maybe for the next couple weeks we need to take it really easy because I hurt myself, or whatever it is.
Yes.
And that's the case for any relationship, truthfully.
True.
But I mean, for women, a lot of lesbian couples, that's what they want to come in, because that also, for lesbians, you seek this same intimacy that a heterosexual couple can have during, basic intercourse, which is face to face. You want this face to face. I want to look into your eyes while we are having sex. So the way to accomplish that, either with hands, if you're not going to use any toys or anything, or with a harness.
Well, it's really hard with a hand.
It is hard with a hand because it's between, anyway,
Yeah,
we're all
right.
lesbians,
We all
so we
know.
know how that
We
works.
get it.
But with a harness, at least you get that face-to-face contact. I can kiss you while we're doing this. I can look into your eyes while I'm making you come.
Right.
Like, this is all, like, that's the intimacy
Yeah.
that
Part
a
of
lot
it.
of people are looking for.
Yeah.
And then you have those hey mamas who come in,
Yeah.
you know, and they just want to buy a strap that they can use on the 10 different girls that they're having sex with at the time. And that is
Don't do
disgusting to
that.
me. Like, if you've used this toy with anybody else, you will not bring it near me. Let me be clear. I
Yeah.
will throw it in the trash so fast you
But
won't
they
know what
could lie
happened.
about
Yeah.
that.
Oh no, because I will provide any toys
Yeah.
in any relationship I'm in. No.
At this point, it's going
Yeah.
to be BYOT.
Wait, what's the T? Oh, toy. I was like, wait, what's the T? I was like, what does T stand for?
No,
Yeah.
or BYOD.
Yes, bring your own dildo. BYOH, bring your own harness. Yeah.
Well, the harness though can be easily.
Not
No.
for
You
me.
Gotta
Not for
clean
me.
it.
Not
I
for
don't
me.
know.
Really?
Oh no.
No, I mean like because that's
I mean,
not.
I understand it can be used with multiple people, but it's not going to be used.
But what I understand is, especially because majority of the dildos are made with like a silicone based, right?
It depends. Some are silicone, some are TPE, some are made out of like a jelly material.
What is even TPE? Jeez.
It's, I can't remember what it stands for, but
I
it's a
didn't know there's so
material.
many styles.
It's a material.
Yeah, it's a material.
But regardless, it's a type of material that can still be absorbent. That's what I'm trying to think.
So silicone is non-porous. So
Okay,
silicone,
non-porous,
you technically
Technically
could,
clean it.
silicone, metal, glass.
Metal.
Well, yeah. Look,
Glass and
silicone, metal,
yeah.
glass, those are all non-porous. Like
Yeah.
literally, in theory, nothing should transfer.
Okay.
If you
Right.
don't care for your silicone correctly, like you use the wrong kind of lube with it, or you store it where it's touching another toy or something like that,
Yeah.
then you compromise
yeah.
the integrity of the material, and you don't want to do
And
that.
you don't know if somebody's going to actually
Right.
sterilize it completely,
Right.
unless they, know how to sterilize.
Yeah.
tools
No,
completely.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't.
You
Like I
don't
said,
trust.
no.
Yeah,
I
you
don't trust. No.
That's why
So-
bring your own. Bring your own D.
Okay, so now that I'm curious for the singles out there, because this is just more of my curiosity, when you are a single and looking to get into a relationship, whether it's a serious one or maybe just like a sexual one, I guess what do single people do about that? Like, do they have to go and buy a ton of toys? Do you know what I mean? Like,
They should.
Okay.
They should. Because I know if I found out that a toy that had been used on me had been used on anybody else, I would not be okay with it.
But
Would absolutely not be
would
okay
you
with
be
it.
okay with using, like, say you are intimate with somebody and they had their own toy, they brought their own toy.
Again,
you
for
just-
me, that's
it's-
more of a mental block too.
Yeah.
Like, I know some other woman used this toy on you. No, I don't want to use it on you.
Okay.
So
That's-
new.
Yeah.
For you,
For
completely
me,
new on all
completely
time.
new. But again, I know I'm in a different position where I don't have to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars
Correct.
on toys.
Yes, and you have access
know.
to it, and besides,
Yeah.
you've been,
Yeah.
you've been in it, so
Yeah.
and you have all the details about it.
For me, it would, and again, this is just me, and maybe it's a messed up thing in my head, but I would
No.
feel so betrayed if somebody used a toy on me that they had
That's
used
true.
on somebody else.
Yeah.
And I would also feel betrayed if somebody was like, here, use this on me, when they had used it with another partner.
Yeah.
I feel like
Right.
when a relationship is over,
Everything
every
should go.
part of that relationship
I agree.
needs to go.
You gotta throw everything out.
Everything needs to go. You
Yeah.
start fresh.
I agree.
You know,
Truly never thought about that, obviously. So that's really interesting.
Because you never have
You've
to
been
worry
coupled up
about
for
it.
so
Yes,
long,
you've been with the same person for 16 years.
I will
Obviously.
Obviously, I will say that if we don't like something, it's going in the trash.
Yeah.
Right.
It's going. It's like
Yeah.
there's no point of even.
You've tried, it doesn't
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, though. It's a good perspective
there's a
too
market
because
for you to sell those used toys online. So
What?
just FYI.
There's a Craigslist. There's a Craigslist for sex toys.
There's a market for selling used toys. Yeah.
no.
Interesting.
Oh, there is.
It's like an OnlyFans type
That is
situation.
ridiculous.
Kind of, but for
That is
used
ridiculous.
toys.
I cannot.
That's
be-
like another layer of
Yeah.
my innocent brain is right now going. Oh
goodness.
my god.
No.
So, Jen, would you date anyone? This is probably a no, but would you date anyone who's not willing to use sex toys?
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Absolutely. Hey, if you
Interesting.
know how to use what you've got, then who am I to tell you that's not enough?
So open.
But no, I really am, because I don't think you don't need
it.
toys.
You don't need it. Yeah,
You don't need toys. They're a great addition.
Right.
Do I think people should rely on them? Absolutely not.
Right.
But if that is the only way you are capable of getting to a point of climax,
Right.
then you do that until you figure out.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's this whole stigma, if you use toys too much, you're going to desensitize yourself up. That's all
Right.
false. That's all a lie.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
not true.
so glad you brought that
Yeah.
up because I have always been taught that.
Yeah.
I've been told
not true.
that you're going to desensitize or make it to, you know, where you have
Again, it
what
all
is it?
starts in your head.
It does.
It
What
all
is it
starts in
called?
your head.
Incontinence.
Desensitize. I don't. Incontinence. I mean, I think if you,
That's what I have heard.
no, that's inaccurate.
Okay.
Incontinence can come from having rough intercourse,
Okay.
really rough intercourse.
Okay.
But not, it has nothing to do with toy usage. It's if you use a toy too roughly,
Okay.
like
Okay.
Right.
inside of you.
Yeah. Then
But
that's
it's
a
not going to
different-
come from just clitoral stimulation.
Gotcha.
But I mean,
Interesting.
again, it's
Yeah.
it's how rough you are on yourself or how rough your partner is with you. That's
Right.
the only thing that would affect anything like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So another question, Jen. Can you give us toys that you recommend for lesbians? I know you said like the top ones. Yeah, but what are other toys that you recommend for lesbians?
You know, it depends on what does it for you. But I mean, I have not met any women, and doesn't mean they're not out there, and it doesn't mean that they're straight, gay, whatever. But I've never met a woman who didn't like clitoral stimulation. So, you know, anything.
Isn't there like 15,000 nerve endings or something that in that area?
Absolutely. Like
Yeah.
you have intense nerve endings in your nipples, in your clitoris, on your anus, and your labia. Like all of these are. You also have them on the inside of your arm.
yeah.
You have those nerve endings, and it's all how you stimulate them. And like so, clitoral stimulation. And I know that there are women out there who. And this is something I would love to do some more research on. Actually, now that I think about it, there are women out there, and they're referred to as touch me nots.
What is that?
There are women who don't want to be touched.
Interesting.
Yeah.
At all.
Oh yeah, they don't want to be touched at all. They want to do they want to do everything for their partner. So they're stone tops. Like they want to do
Stone
everything
tops? I've
for
never
their
heard that
I don't know if
before.
it's an actual I
No,
don't know if
I
I just
love it,
made that
though.
up.
You just
but they
did.
only just
coined it
want
right
She
now.
coined it right
like,
now.
They don't want to be touched.
Stone tops.
So they're called touch me nots. So they don't want to be touched. They
really?
don't yeah. And
You
so
don't. You don't return the favor.
right. They don't
But
want
can
to
you
do
kiss
that.
them?
Yeah, kissing is okay. That kind of
you-
stuff is fine. But
How do you kiss somebody and not touch them?
well, I mean, they don't want to be touched on their private parts.
So I see. Okay. So they're
Very literal
yes,
right
you
now.
are being very literal. So if it can be covered up by
like,
undergarments,
"Don't
they
hold
don't
my
want to be
hand."
touched there. Yeah, if it can be covered up by your undergarments, then they don't want to be touched there.
I mean, I think we should call it touch me not in those areas.
Yeah.
I need it to be clear,
Yes.
okay?
okay,
But-
Miss Capricorn over here.
Yes.
She has to be very literal.
But I mean,
I understand what you're saying.
outside of those women, I have not, and I haven't even actually, I've never met a touch me not, to my knowledge. If I've met them, I didn't know they were a touch me not. However, my point is every woman I've ever met, and every woman I've ever been with, every woman I've ever had a conversation with about sex, which is a lot of women because of my job, they want that clitoral stimulation, even if they also want penetration, even if they also want other things. They want that clitoral stimulation because I feel like the percentage is like 76% of women cannot climax just with
Without.
penetration.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's solely clitoral stimulation that will, make them climax. So that's something that I think you can't go wrong with.
Yeah.
A bullet is something simple. It's also something cheap. You can buy them with different kinds of vibration, like whether it's a super fast buzzy vibration if that's your preference, or a more rumbly vibration, some that have functions so they do different things. But I mean, you can't go wrong with a bullet.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with something that just is meant to stimulate your clitoris. And it can be used on other areas of your body.
Yeah.
Like use it on your nipples, use it, like give somebody a massage with it. It's so simple. It's literally a cheap, easy toy that you can use with your partner, and it's also really great as an introductory toy if you've never used a toy with your. It's not intimidating. They you can
They're
get them this
tiny,
small,
yeah.
like an inch or two big, or they can be significantly bigger. Just
Yeah.
it's a nice introductory, not intimidating at all.
There
way
you
to
go.
start with.
Yeah.
And I think you're right, because I've even heard of women who don't even like penetration and they would prefer just that stimulation,
Right.
Which is common, right?
Right.
Am I wrong? Is that something that okay?
There are a lot of
common.
people who do. I mean, and some women, they don't mind the penetration, but is it going to get them off? Absolutely not. They need that clitoral stimulation in addition to the penetration in order to, you know, to climax. So, yeah.
So, do you have people who are coming in, lesbians, let's just, you know, specifically for lesbians, do you have lesbian couples who are coming in the store needing to spice things up because they got to that lesbian bed death
They never
situation?
say that.
They never say that.
And I will be honest, as far as lesbians are concerned, I don't get older lesbian couples coming in. It's all young lesbian couples who are actually usually in new or relatively young relationships, as in they've only been together a couple months or a couple years. Not a lot of long-term, you know.
But let's also just preference this too with that question, because we're talking about people who didn't have access. We're talking about people who are older who did not have access to this kind of information. Whereas now we do have access to it. Young people understand it. I mean, you've literally taught me a couple of things just in this conversation, because I didn't know there were certain, you know, things that were happening in that industry, right? Or just among couples even. So, you know, that's also something to consider, right? Because you're not going to get, that's not your demographic. Your demographic is going to be people who are open to that, or at least understand it, or at least heard about it from their friends or something like that. So I can imagine you're not going to get a lot of older people. You're going to get a lot of people who are going to be more, you know, educated on it.
Educated, or at least they've had at least some introduction to it, right?
But you also bring up another question, Angeli, about
lesbian bed dead,
which I think personally is a misnomer.
I
think that it's
okay.
Oh, absolutely. It is not specific just to lesbians. It is something that every relationship can, you know, suffer from.
Okay, so I really want to talk about this because I have heard that too, right? In my own just curiosity, I've just researched things like that. But I've also heard of people who are in heterosexual relationships where they get to a point that they are not able to have sex. Like, it just can't happen. And it's mainly, it could be because either the guy is not able to get it up. And I wish I had a better phrase of that, but that's basically what
erectile dysfunction.
Thank you. Right? Okay, so that's the technical term. but then there are women who also are not, you know, they don't, maybe they're, I don't know, dry, right? Or their hormones are
as
off.
You age, your hormones change, and there's literally no education for aging women. Once you get into your 40s and you start going through perimenopause, then menopause, then postmenopause, there's no information out there. Nobody knows what to expect. So you get there and all these things start happening and you're like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Where did my libido go? Why am I dry? Why does this feel like this? This is not comfortable. It hurts. And there's no education out there about it. And just now, in the last couple of years, there have been doctors who are specifically studying this and specifically studying what happens to your hormones as you age as a woman. You know, and I mean, there's things that are starting to happen, but they're still
far behind.
They've barely scratched the surface.
Because women didn't get studied on for many years. So,
but now they're coming out with lubes and stuff for women who are in that phase of their life. You know, there's a line of lubes made by Wicked, and it's called Timeless, and it's for women who are perimenopausal and menopausal, and they have a different formula in them, so they address a lot of these issues. You know, you when you become older, certain things happen, like your pelvic wall starts to, you know, atrophy a little bit. Your muscles start to atrophy. And so if you don't know these things are happening, you don't know how to combat them. And there are ways to combat these things so that you don't feel this way, so that your body doesn't feel quite as out of whack as it does, you know? I mean, there are obviously medical things like HRT and hormone replacement therapy, which is what that is, and things along those lines. But for people who don't want to go the medical route, there are other things. You can literally walk into any adult store and buy a good lube, or buy, you know, I think what happens for women as they start to age, they start to feel like sex is out of the question for them. and they start to think, oh, I don't want, I don't even know if I could have an orgasm right now, or because things feel so out of whack down there at the moment. Like the biggest thing is like, hey, you absolutely can still have an orgasm. You just need to try these things. And again, it all goes back to your biggest sex organ being in your head.
Right.
You start thinking there's something wrong with you, and then the last thing you want to do is think about something sexy or something that's going to turn you on.
Yeah.
So it's important to remember, hey, yes, I'm aging, but you know what? That doesn't mean I'm dead. It doesn't mean I don't want to have sex anymore. It doesn't mean I can't have sex anymore. It doesn't mean I can't have an orgasm.
Yeah.
You just have to have those tools.
Yeah.
And this is good. This is a good conversation so that people that are listening can actually, hey, maybe you are feeling that way, right? Maybe you're at that age where you're like, gosh, my hormones are, out of whack or whatever is happening. Or you're just feeling like I need to spice things up. How do I get to that point? Or how can I help myself? And I think it's important to have the conversation for women because you're right, we don't have as much knowledge.
Yeah.
There's a lot of just uneducated, and I'm going to call myself out. I was not educated on a lot of these things as a woman. Because my mom never told me. She doesn't know herself.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Think about it up until recently.
Yeah.
Like, sex was only about a man's pleasure.
Yeah, how have we had gone this far and only just realizing these?
Yeah, I mean,
It's ridiculous.
up until
crazy?
maybe the last 20, 30
That is
years,
crazy.
sex was only about a man's pleasure and having a child.
Oh my God.
Like, this is just for procreation.
Right.
This is just for...
Did you say up to like 20, 30 years ago? I mean, that's
Maybe. I mean, there were
crazy.
adult stores starting in the 70s, but I mean, not the way,
mostly
like,
catered to-
it was catered, all,
It was
like,
all
mostly,
catered to men,
like,
yeah.
not
Yeah.
DVDs, they didn't have those then, but you know
Right.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
video stores and, so it was masturbators for men and video stores where you could just buy DVDs or rent DVDs, or not even DVDs, like you say.
Oh,
but,
right,
you know,
right,
yeah.
VHS.
Whatever
to have, yeah.
We just
So-
went back in time.
Yeah, we did. But I mean, up until, I would say, maybe 30 years ago. It was actually 30 years ago because it was in 94 is when Susan Colvin, who owns California Exotic Novelties, she was the first woman in the adult industry. And she was kind of the pioneer. She just kind of started all of this, and she was the first woman in the industry to start a company and start manufacturing stuff. And it wasn't she wasn't the first person to manufacture toys for women, but she was the first woman.
Yeah.
And so she kind of started this ball rolling, and now there's more product on the market for women than there is for men, which is incredible, and it's astounding.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's amazing. Women are amazing in general because
Absolutely.
we can have multiple orgasms within,
Absolutely.
and a man cannot.
Yeah. Fuck you guys. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I mean, good
But
for
no,
us.
I mean,
Yay
but
for
I
us.
just
Good
think
for us.
that
Finally, we got something.
Yes. Yeah.
I just think that, you're right. My mom and even my grandmother, they would not. This was definitely taboo. Like, this is something that you're not going to talk about.
No.
And so.
And if they did, it was a joke. It was never
It was,
serious.
yeah, it was never serious. It was never,
Yes.
let's actually have a conversation
Right.
about what
Yeah,
I
of course
like
not.
or whatever.
Yeah, it's very hush hush.
And it was about the male, it was about that. But regardless, I think that it's amazing that women can have orgasms and be ready to go. Like, it's nothing. It's like, and they can go, and by the way, they can actually have an orgasm pretty freaking quickly as long as you know where your points are,
Right.
or where
Right.
what that person likes,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is, I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
I agree.
Yay for women.
Yay, women.
Yes, finally.
I mean, I just think it's important to remember this is not specific just to women.
Yeah.
Like, it's not specific just to lesbian couples. And that, I think that started, it was called lesbian bed death as like a lesbophobic sort of thing. Like, it started, I want to say, in the 70s or 80s, where they started talking about women who are in long-term relationships together, they don't have sex anymore, blah blah blah. That's a lie. Like, any relationship that's a long-term relationship could suffer from this exact same phenomenon, and it's just a matter of, like I said, having open conversations, talking to your partner about your wants, your needs, your desires,
Right.
finding ways where you're both comfortable,
Right.
trying something new or trying
Yeah.
something different, or trying just the same thing again, but let's try it this way. I mean, there's so many options out there.
Right.
What would you recommend for somebody who maybe I know you're not a sex therapist. Okay, so we know that.
I
but
really wish you
I'm
are, actually, Jen. Have you thought about it?
I
You'd
know,
be
she would
really good at it.
I really like talking to people, and I like hearing about things like this. I don't know. I can't handle any more student loans.
I know, that's true. We did just talk about
We
this.
did. Just I have
offline.
3 degrees
Yes.
worth of student loans, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can handle that.
Can I pay for it? But I'm
Yes,
not going to pay
absolutely.
for it.
Yeah. We're just going to take out a loan and then never pay it. There you go.
Exactly. That's what I'm going to do. Put it under my name.
But well, so I just am curious. What would you not recommend for somebody to use in a same-sex couple or a lesbian couple?
I can't say that there's anything I would specifically not recommend.
Okay.
What I would say is that if you are bringing a new toy into your relationship, you need to have a conversation about it first.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't just bring something in and just assume your partner's
Surprise.
going to want to use it.
Yeah.
Especially, we are women, and women, like, at least in my experience, it's easy for me to talk to my partners. It's easy for me to talk to my friends.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me to just pop up with something that I have no idea if you're going to like it or not, I feel like that's like, it could end disastrous in a disastrous
Yeah,
way.
right.
So if
Yeah.
you're not 100% sure, then you need to have a conversation about it first.
That's fair.
So another question then is, do you know now, is it BSM? Am I saying that right?
BDSM?
BDSM. Okay, I'm sorry about that. BDSM. So in BDSM, do you know if there are women couples that
Oh, absolutely.
practice
Yes.
in that?
Yes.
Because every time you hear about it or whatever, you mainly think about men and women, right? A heterosexual couple. I've never heard of it for
Absolutely.
a lesbian.
There are lesbian couples who participate. And I think the other thing, and this is all hearsay because I don't know how accurate this is, but I do know some people in the BDSM community. And what's been expressed to me a lot is that it's not always about sex. It's not always about intercourse.
Yeah.
It's
Is it about
about
play?
giving up your control to someone,
Okay.
them, and the sub is always the person in control.
Can we
That's the
just
thing.
explain BDSM for some people who probably doesn't know that in case they're listening?
So it's bondage, dominance, submission, and then sadomasochism.
Okay.
So it has to do with like a sub and a dominant relationship. So, your dominant person, your submissive person. But it doesn't have as much, it's not just about sex. It's this control, like one person, exhibiting this control over another person. But what people fail to realize is that as a submissive, you're actually the person in control. But in those relationships, they're not always about sex. That's the point I was trying to make.
Yeah.
I met somebody once who was a dom, and, he knew what I did for a living. And so he was like, oh, we should have a session. And I was like, oh, I'm a lesbian. And he was like, it's okay. He's like, I have lesbian couples all the time. And I was like, and there's no intercourse involved? And he's like, no.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it doesn't even result in intercourse. It's like it's like role playing,
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't always have to result in actual intercourse is my point. But as a lesbian, if I was going to participate in something like that, I'm not sure I'd want to have a male
Right.
Figure.
dom
And
or
Yeah.
a male sub or whatever it is,
Yeah.
For me
Interesting.
personally.
Interesting.
I don't really know enough about it though, to
yeah.
be totally honest with you, because
Yeah.
it's not something I've ever participated in. So I don't have
don't-
enough personal experience to really.
Yeah.
I don't know very much about it either, but I was curious if that is something that women go through, or if you've
Absolutely.
seen that,
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
especially in lesbian couples. 'Cause
Right.
I've never heard of any. Of course, though, I do not talk to people about their
Right.
preferences. That's not my job at all. So it's nothing that, there would be no reason to even talk about it.
Right.
But I am curious, though.
No, there are absolutely. I do know this for a fact. While I can't give you specifics, because again, like I said, I have no personal experience with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, is it something that not mainstream? Because obviously, if it was mainstream, I feel like we would all know that there is some lesbian couples out there with that. But I always think of some of these like fetishes out there that are even being portrayed in media, on films. Like the one that you told me, you actually introduced me to this one, Angeli. I believe it's Disobedience.
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have not seen this movie, but from what you guys have told me,
Seen it?
I know, it's good.
I haven't seen it. I've seen Blue is the warmest
I know
color.
you love
Yes.
that movie.
And I love that movie.
I did not like it.
Yeah, see, you did. Okay, so I loved the movie, although I did find out about some other stuff behind the scenes as far as like how comfortable those women were, and they were not comfortable in that movie. So
Yeah.
I do then take another look back at going, oh, maybe that's not the best film. Anyway, doesn't matter. What I'm getting at is that there are people out there who portray lesbians as this like fetish type. You know, it's bad. It's portraying it in a bad way. And I'm not saying disobedience is a bad portrayal of women. I have not seen the movie. But from what you guys have told me, that just seems really heavy. For me, that's heavy. I don't think I've ever even met somebody who likes that type of fetish.
The spitting? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know this is weird. Okay, so sorry if some people get weirded out by this. Or maybe it's awesome for some people. I again, no judgment here, but you know, is that something that you've ever come across in your world? In your industry?
In adult film, there is a lot of spitting in the place of using lubricant.
Right.
Well, that's okay. Yeah, that's different.
That is where it is as far as my industry is concerned. But there is a spitting fetish. People do have that. In that movie,
Rachel's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But even
it was not a comfortable scene for me to watch because
made
I was
you
so just
uncomfortable.
like overwhelmed by the fact she was spitting in her mouth, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
what's happening?
What?
Yeah.
So basically what I'm getting at regardless is that they're portraying in Hollywood these not just Hollywood, but I'm just saying that people are portraying lesbian couples and gay couples as having this like taboo or fetish or weird thing. That doesn't happen.
I know.
And if it does, it's not every couple,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's where, at least for me, you know, especially when I'm, you know, coming out to family and things like that, they're just like, oh my gosh, it's like this scary thing. It's like
Right.
very, you know, and it's like, we don't do that. That's not, we're a regular couple. We're a normal couple. We're not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. I think obviously the movies and the interpretation sometimes of lesbian sex sometimes can be a little bit too crazy just to get
Way too
everybody to, you know, get invested in it, I feel.
think they try to make it too much like porn without being porn. Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know what? You're
right.
right.
Yeah.
You're
They're
right.
trying to make it so over-sexualized to appeal to men. That is who they're trying to
Yeah.
appeal to. They're not
Right.
trying to appeal to their lesbian viewers.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
It is all to appeal to men.
Yeah.
Do you know if there is a company out there that does, you know,
Uses legitimate lesbians in their, and
actually
Abby
does-
Winters
Okay.
is a film studio. And, you know, truthfully, I don't even know if they're still up and running.
Okay.
But I know their films have actual lesbians in them. I know there are more companies out there. To be honest with
Yeah.
you, I don't know. I know that there's a lot of companies. There's like Cheeks,
Yeah.
who has ethical, you know,
Guidelines,
content
yeah.
and stuff like that. So I think that, you know, I say make your own.
Make your own.
Make your own. Hey,
That's
you know
right.
what?
Yeah. Make sure
Truthfully,
you
make your
freaking
own.
lock
yeah,
that
and
shit
lock
up.
it up.
Yeah.
Don't put it on a cloud anywhere. Like
Oh,
you
it's
should
too
go
late
old
for me.
school and use like
Oh, Jen. Okay, we're gonna talk
go
about
old
this
school
offline.
and use like a VHS, like an old
old
school
school
like
camera.
camcorder.
Too late.
Right? Is that what they're
yeah.
called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Camera
talk
recorder.
about that in the next episode.
Look, I'm saying if you want to make sure it's ethical, you do it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. There's no such thing as your own porn.
No. No,
Yes,
no.
there is.
Yeah.
Oh, there
okay.
is.
All right.
Yep.
Well,
We'll cover it on the next one.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think we've dished a lot about all the good stuff.
Oh,
you
not
know,
all the
right
good
now.
stuff, but some of the good
yeah,
stuff.
some of the good stuff.
of the good
you know,
Yeah.
we'll probably do, depending on your comments, depending on what you tell us, any feedback that you guys wanted for us to talk about
Ask
next
questions.
time.
If you have stuff you want us to talk about, I would
Yes.
love to know because I would be happy.
Yes, Jen will come back, give us, she's the sex expert, I guess. the dual sex expert, so to speak.
She's not call me an
We're gonna
expert.
call
I
it.
feel like there's a lot
Cut.
of pressure with that
That-
word.
Okay,
Yeah.
not an expert. So what do you call?
I'm knowledgeable.
Exactly.
I'm knowledgeable.
Yeah. I was just about to say that. She's knowledgeable.
You're a stone. You're a stone.
I
Sex
want to be a
therapist.
stone bottom.
Yeah,
No, I'm just
stone
kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm not a stone anything.
Right.
Okay. I'm very versatile.
Okay.
Versatile, yeah.
Alrighty. Well, Jen, final question, because everybody has their taco version of themselves when they come to the podcast. So if you're a taco, what kind of taco would you be?
I've been thinking about this because
You
I knew
have.
you were going to ask me
Of course,
this.
I will.
So,
Pressure is on.
do you guys remember these old school, like back in the 90s, early 2000s? They had like these old El Paso taco kits where it had the shells and the seasoning and the sauces and stuff.
my God.
I am one of those tacos, and I'll tell you why. Or
Why?
at least I feel like
Yeah.
that's the kind of taco
Tell
I want to
us.
be. First
She's
of all,
a-
it's comfort food.
Well, hold on. You said El Taco?
Old El Paso. You don't know the brand?
No.
Old El Paso. Oh my God.
Oh,
You know this.
Old El Paso,
You
it's like
know this.
yellow.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
It's okay.
I grew up in a very Mexican dominant family and
That's right.
area. So
She's a little insulted right
this
now.
is really insulting.
I'm a basic white girl who
Yes,
grew up on the
she
East
is
Coast.
basic. Okay,
So
just kidding. You're not
anyway,
basic. You're an expert, remember? Okay.
but I would be a taco from that, and I'll tell you why. Because it's comfort food. You can dress it down. You can dress it up. Like it can be super fancy if you want it to be,
Yeah.
or it can just be basic, like with just some cheese and some like.
And it does the job.
Yeah.
Wait, what type of meat are you?
I was going to make a really inappropriate comment, and I will not. I am not a fish taco, and
Tell
I'm
us
not a roast
offline.
beef taco.
Tell
Okay,
us
we're leaving
offline.
both of those
Tell
alone.
us offline, okay?
I am just an old El Paso taco in a crunchy
Don't
shell
say-
that came in a kit. You can make me as fancy
There
or as
isn't
basic
any
as you
meat?
want me. Yes, it has meat in it.
She just said old and crunchy.
Look, the crunchy shell, and no, I'm not old. Well, I am old, but
You're
it's
not
old El
old. Oh my
Paso. Look, I'm comfort food. That's
Yes.
that's what I am.
That's what you are.
That's what I feel
Love
like
that.
I am.
Yes.
That is so.
So, and
awesome.
yeah.
I love you.
Thanks, Jen.
I know nobody else would say something like that because we're in Texas.
That's right.
But I'm
No,
not
but
from
hey,
here, so I'm
it's
okay saying it.
Original, number
Yeah.
one. And
It
there
is
is a
original.
reason behind it. Old and crunchy. Hey, I like that.
Hey,
I'm
look,
just kidding.
we're never repeating that again.
We're never.
never repeating that. I'm not. I might be old,
no,
but I'm not
we're
crunchy.
saying comfortable.
Yes.
Right? Comfort.
Yeah.
It's like
comfort.
comfort food, and
Comfort food.
you know, you can, like I said, you can dress it up, you can dress it down. It's basic.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not
you're
basic.
not
It's
basic.
versatile.
Yeah.
I mean, also a little. Basic.
Also accessible. Is that
Yeah.
good?
Yeah, except I'm not accessible. Wait a minute.
Listen,
Wait a minute.
getting
I know,
Yeah,
it's getting
this is
going.
getting a
Okay.
little out of hand
All right.
here.
Yes, we are. And that's usually what happens. So we're going to wrap it up here. And thank everybody for joining us today, or whatever time you're listening.
I do want to say this one thing before Angela wraps
God.
up. Really.
All right.
No. It's actually a good thing. I want to take a moment to just thank you so much. Not only for the knowledge that you've given me, but also the knowledge that you've given to our friends too, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff we did not know.
Right.
And so I really, truly appreciate this knowledge and just having that open conversation. So thank you.
Thank you,
For
Jen.
being
I'm happy
you.
to share. I'm happy to answer questions. As long as they're not weird. Don't ask me weird questions.
Well, we'll see you next time, hopefully. Hopefully this is going to be one of those series, because I'm pretty sure everybody out there will have additional questions.
I hope so.
Absolutely.
I hope so.
And all the right things. So thank you for coming.
Of course. Thank you for having me. This was fun.
This is fun,
This
right?
was fun. Yay, sex.
Yay, sex.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
The Taco Stand podcast is proudly brought to you by Just As Lesbians, a meetup group based in San Antonio, Texas. Find us and hope to see you in our next event.